Hello, people. It's your boy Ambassador again doing this thing. As usual, I just come to share my opinion. So I'll be talking today about the Forbes list of African billionaires that just came out in the top 20. The number of things that just, should I say, were eye-catching, and I was like, okay, let me talk about these things. First is the fact that it's mostly older people. So when I look at our African list, it's mostly older people compared to out there where you have people like Zuckerberg. Even Jeff Bezos was not that old when he became a billionaire. Even Bill Gates, and then we see people changing in the list. So I remember one time Gates and Warren Buffett were like the undisputed champions for at least 5 years. But now Elon Musk and what's his name, Jeff Bezos came and they were at the top for a while. What's his name? Zuckerberg too has been on this list. For some reason in Africa we don't really change that much. Dangote has been there. In fact, synonym for richest man in Africa is Dangote.
Number 1. Aliko Dangote. Dangote is Africa's richest person and the founder of Dangote Cement, the continent's largest cement producer. He owns 85% of publicly traded Dangote Cement through a holding company. After many years in development, Dangote's fertilizer plant in Nigeria began operations in March 2022, and his Dangote refinery is expected to begin refining operations in 2024. His fortune rose by $400 million this year to $13.9 billion, and he claimed the ranking's #1 spot for the 13th year in a row.
And they're all older people. So is it that the younger people are not trying to make money, or there's no luck for younger people to climb up this list? I don't know, but that's just what came to my mind. Like, we are all these young people in Africa. Africa is the youngest continent, all these potentials, all these problems to solve. But for some reason, we don't break in and solve these problems and then become billionaires. I don't know why. Or maybe we're not trying hard enough. People like Vusi Timbakwayo should tell me. People like, how do they call this other guy? Shola and the others of Paystack. These are guys who are making major moves, and I'm thinking like they should be jumping into this list every now and then. What's his name? Don Jazzy has just made some $1 billion kind of moves, but I don't think he's close to this list. When I see the numbers these old people were pulling, it will take him 2 generations to get there. But it might also just be a smart move that will put him into this list. The next thing that came to mind was why the large disparity in, I don't want to make it a racial discussion, but I'm saying I don't want to make the racial discussion. But it was just something that struck me and I felt I should talk about it. Africa is mostly dark-skinned people, but I saw a lot of fair-skinned people. I don't want to say white, but the lighter, the richer. Let me put it that way. There were mostly some of the Maghrebian guys on that list. There were lots of these white South Africans on the list. There were white Zimbabweans, I think. So I was asking myself, like, what is this telling us? Do I need to get whiter to get richer?
Number 4. Nassef Sawiris. Nassef Sawiris is an investor and a scion of Egypt's wealthiest family, with a net worth of $8.7 billion. Number 3. Nicky Oppenheimer and family. Number 2. Johann Rupert and family. This South African luxury goods owner held on to the number 2 spot this year with $10.1 billion.
Is it that money flows more along those lines of colors? But these are things you should think about, because when I look at those lists, I'm not just looking at the list, I'm looking at the list from a critical angle of what does it take to get here, how can I get here? And then I start looking at some of these things like, okay, their age, does it mean I have to wait till I'm that old? The skin color too, what does that say? It's true, Dangote and I think the first 2 or so, yeah. The other thing was the nationalities. So we had Nigerians and I think Egyptians. Nigerians had I think 4, then I think South Africans too. That's also telling of their economies. But I was just wondering, why do we have more lighter skinned people on this Forbes list of billionaires on a continent where we have a large majority dark skinned people? What is wrong with this skin and money? The next thing which popped up was the new faces. There were not that many new faces. But there was Otedola who had been on this list before, who I think had dropped. I think it was 2017 or so. He had dropped. Recently, he made some major moves and he came back. So Otedola was new recently, but it's not that new. Then we have guys like what's his name? Also, I was wondering the industries they are involved in. It was very similar: oil and gas, mostly natural resources. Why is Africa not producing? Why are we not doing transformation, processing, some service kind of things? It was just the South African guy who I think is into retail who was also on this, but most of them it's oil and gas. Okay, telecom to an extent was also there a lot, but most of them is oil and gas, diamonds, exploitation of natural resources. Africans should try. I'm imagining if you are a billionaire just by exploitation of natural resources, if you do transformation of these natural resources, then you'll be talking the leaks with the Elon Musk and the Zuckerbergs and the Jeff Bezos. But because we stay just at a level of exploitation and no transformation, then there's not as much as you can make, because the real added value is when you go up this value chain. So that being said, those were just the thoughts that popped up. Also, last but not the least, it was mostly English speaking Africa. French Africa was MIA, missing in action. I don't know why, but that should tell French Africa something. I am from the English speaking part of Cameroon, but Cameroon is mostly considered as French Africa, and we are mostly governed by French African policies, and it's not easy. And that just goes to show, like, some of the educational system from French Africa, the legal system, the currency, monetary things from French Africa, that some of these things, I don't know exactly, but I feel there are some things French Africa is doing wrong, which is not permitting them to become billionaires or to grow their wealth like that. So that's it. That's just my opinion. Those are my thoughts. It's your boy Ambassador. I'm out.
Just my opinion.